And if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
We're back and a very happy new year. A massive 3 hours coming up. 2 big opinion monologues at the start of the show. Hey teacher, leave our kids alone. Why are young people the foot soldiers of this pandemic? And my New Year's resolutions for Britain. Plus, my Mark Meets guest is the Heritage Party leader, David Kurten. He's live at 10, plus my all-star panel and a special instalment of We Feel Your Pain, a regular item on the show, in which we reach out to a celebrity going through a tough time. Tonight, it's Sir Tony Blair. You won't want to miss that one. Plus, our newspaper review. And Headliners is 7 days a week. So from 11, I'll be hosting every Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So excited about that. A big 3 hours to come. I can't do it without you. And remember, we don't do boring. Not on my watch. I'll see you after the headlines with Karen.
Thank you, Mark. These are your latest headlines. The Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, is warning that 70% of patients in intensive care with COVID are unvaccinated. 200 troops are being deployed to London hospitals as NHS staff absences rose 59% in a week due to isolation. A further 150 soldiers will support the North West Ambulance Service. Bupa's former Chief Medical Officer, Andrew Valance-Owen, has told GB News the move is positive for the NHS.
People should be reassured that we've had the sense to bring the army in. We saw during the crisis last year that the Nightingale hospitals were almost built and staffed by the army, and they did a brilliant job.
Downing Street says England's new relaxed travel rules won't affect the country's ability to detect COVID variants. Travellers no longer need to take a pre-departure COVID test before returning to England from today, but they must do a lateral flow test when they arrive. Industry expert Paul Charles told GB News that previous travel restrictions were not effective.
The government felt, from a health point of view, they had to introduce these tough, onerous restrictions from the outset. They haven't worked. They haven't stopped Omicron coming into the UK.
A second arrest has been made in the investigation of the killing of Dariusz Wołosz. A 27-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of murder of the 46-year-old who was stabbed to death in West London on Tuesday. A 13-year-old boy who was arrested yesterday has been released on bail until early February. Mr. Wołosz, who was Polish, was attacked by a group of men near to his home following a row in West Drayton. Labour MP Jack Dromey has died suddenly at his flat in Birmingham. He was 73. It's understood he died of natural causes. The Labour Party has issued a statement on behalf of his family and his wife, who is long-serving Labour MP Harriet Harman, saying he'd been a dedicated MP for Birmingham Erdington since 2010 and will be greatly missed. And Hollywood actor Sir Sidney Poitier has died. He was 94. The Bahamian-American star won an Oscar for Best Actor for his role in Lilies of the Field. He was the first black man to win the coveted award, helping to pave the way for generations of African-American actors. Whoopi Goldberg is among those paying tribute, saying, "Poitier showed us to reach for the stars." And Lenny Kravitz says, "Sir Sidney Poitier, the doors you opened and paths you created will continue to make way for those with a dream. You showed the world that with vision and grace, all is possible." You are right up to date. Now back to Mark Dolan tonight.
It's Friday, the 7th of January. You're watching Mark Dolan tonight. It's a new year, but I can promise you the same heady mix of big guests, big opinions and big stories. In the big question, should we stop mass testing right now? We'll hear from all sides on that one. Fitness guru Delvin Clark will join us live in the studio, so get your lycra at the ready. And my Mark Meets guest tonight is that rare thing, a politician that actually believes in freedom. David Kurten, leader of the Heritage Party, is live at 10. In the news agenda with my panel, we'll be asking whether technology now has a dangerous influence on our lives, what can be done about air pollution and does it matter, and has anyone ever nicked food from your fridge, whether at home or at work? We'll have a look at some outrageous kitchen crimes. And before the end of the programme, as always, another great British game show. Childhood celebrities, but now they're grown up. Could you recognise them? We'll play Growing Pains at 10:45. Two big opinion monologues coming up, one on masks in the classroom and another on my New Year's resolutions for Britain. And also after 10, Tony Blair is the subject of a special edition of We Feel Your Pain, a regular item in the show, in which we reach out to a celebrity that's going through a tough time. Arise, Sir Tony, that's at 10. On my all-star panel reacting to the big stories of the day are author and social worker Chris Wilde, political commentator Alice Grant, and comedian Nick Dixon. Speaking of comedians, some very big news for the show this year. The hugely popular late-night newspaper review programme Headliners is going 7 days a week, and I'm delighted to say that I'll be hosting Weekend Headliners every Friday, Saturday and Sunday starting tonight, 11 till midnight. For a fun and feisty digest of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, make sure you stick around after 11. But my priority, as always, for the next 3 hours is to get your opinions on the national television airwaves. It's great to be back. Drop me an email right now and throughout the show. The best bit of my show is when I hear from you. My email, as always, is mark@gbnews.uk, mark@gbnews.uk. A big 3 hours to come, including the premiere of Weekend Headliners at 11. A big show. Let's get to work. We've seen more moral courage from children this week than from any adult. Damien McNulty, a top teaching union boss, has revealed just 5% of pupils at one school in Lancashire agreed to take a lateral flow test at the start of term or wear a mask. 5%. Sadly, he says, we've had reports in the last 24 hours of at least 6 secondary schools in the northwest of England where children in huge numbers are refusing to take lateral flow tests or to wear masks. Well, praise the Lord. Children are saying no to endless testing, given the vanishingly small threat that the virus poses to them. And they're saying no to masks because clearly they don't think they work. And I would give them an A star for that observation. Don't take my word for it. In a hastily assembled trial, the government's own report into mask efficacy in schools was branded, wait for it, inconclusive. There's a surprise. Perhaps these kids have simply been concentrating in biology class and have worked out that a virus like COVID is infinitely smaller than the holes in those masks. The surgical and cloth masks that most kids are wearing, harbouring innumerable bacteria, are so questionable, the authorities in Germany and Austria don't even accept them. Although even those majestic N95 masks are not arresting an explosion of cases on the continent. Crikey, it's almost like the masks don't stop the spread. Surely not. So, whilst the evidence around masks is inconclusive, the damage to children's education and their mental and even physical health is quite clear. Now, some people think using the term child abuse for masking children as young as 11 all day in the classroom is too strong. They think it's disproportionate language. That's a debate we can have. But locking playgrounds, putting gaffer tape on swings and slides, closing schools, causing an estimated 10,000 kids in the course of the pandemic to literally disappear from an academic setting, not to return, covering kids' faces, exposing them to germs and impacting their education and interactions, making them eat outside in freezing temperatures, plonking them next to an open window in midwinter, if not abusive, is certainly not in their best interest. And it seems that children have had enough. Of course, they don't know the half of it. 12 to 15-year-olds are being vaccinated against the advice of the government's vaccine body, the JCVI, for a jab that statistically they arguably don't need. And given the huge social changes, lockdowns and other measures have fomented, these kids will be part of a divided, more polarised and angry society as they grow up. Oh, and they'll also have to deal with 2.1 trillion quid's worth of national debt. In any normal society, children come first. Well, in this pandemic, they've come last. When it becomes clear that damage that's been done to the country is damage that they will inherit, and the impact of the COVID measures, of course, will impact their life chances, the anger that they will feel will be hard to contain. With one question doubtless ringing in their ears in relation to a nasty virus, yes, but one non-fatal to the vast majority of the population, kids will be asking, what the hell were they thinking? Children and young people have been described as vectors of disease, super spreaders, and their interests have been disregarded in favour of grandma and grandpa. What a sick and immoral role reversal, one that most grandmas and grandpas that I know would not want to see. Welcome to the heartless and scientifically cretinous hell of 2022. If these politically motivated measures inflicted on our youngest members of society, those we're there to protect, if they continue, well then the kids will never forgive us. And why would they? It's time to end the cruelty, end the madness, and end the war on children. It is January the 7th. How are your New Year's resolutions going? Mine aren't going great. Still drinking beer, going to bed too late, and enjoying too deep a relationship with both Mr. Kipling and Ronald McDonald. But there has to be some serious resolution this year from you, the great British public. The arrival of January is always a chance to turn the page and start a new chapter. And after all the damage we've seen from COVID measures over almost 2 years, it's time that we realise that society, the economy, and ironically public health, with an ever-growing NHS waiting list, can take no more. When you're drawing up New Year's resolutions, it's always worth having two lists. One with things that you'll stop doing, and one with things that you're going to start. So this year, in my view, it's time to give up lockdowns. It's time to give up endless hand sanitising, testing the healthy, jabbing everything that moves, irrespective of medical need. It's time to give up 10 p.m. curfews, putting on a mask to stand up in a pub, sitting down to take it off. Explain the science on that one, please. It's time to give up closed gyms, closed schools, closed shops and closed businesses. It's time to give up plastic perspex screens everywhere, for which there is no proven strong scientific merit, just COVID theatre. It's time to say no to celebrities saying one thing and doing another. It's time to say no to politicians and unelected scientists deciding whether we can go to work, go on holiday, meet our friends, see our family, or celebrate Christmas. It's time to say no to stickers and posters everywhere saying, stay safe. Oh, the irony. And it's time to say no to those godforsaken arrows in supermarkets. Are we still living under the comic fantasy that COVID travels in just one direction? The only arrows we should see this year are ones pointing to an exit from this hellish dystopian nightmare, one which will likely see a far higher death toll from lockdowns and other measures than the virus could ever achieve. The University of Bristol have told me in an interview that creating the biggest recession in 300 years will likely cost 500,000 lives. I say we give all of that up. That's the no list. I'm sure you can add a few of your own. But a new year is always a time of optimism, and I am abundantly optimistic about 2022. The Daily Mail have reported that hospitalisations are actually lower than they were in the winter of 2019 before the pandemic. Omicron is widely expected to be as mild as can be. That's right, even COVID zealots are arguing now it's on a par with a bad cold. And plot spoiler, bad colds can affect people, as they always have done, and sadly cost lives, but nothing to merit another year of the madness we've seen. So let's say yes to friends, family and loved ones. Let's say yes to hugging and high fives and kisses, maybe the odd handshake. Say yes to risk, danger, adversity, peril. The daily management of peril is the very essence of the human story. Life always has been and always will be hazardous, but joyous too, if lived fully. The cult of safetyism has, in my view, made us anything but. So let's say yes to packed cinemas, full stadia and sold-out concerts. Let's say yes to new businesses, new people. Let's say yes to hiring, not firing. Say yes to a vibrant, growing economy, which can emerge from debt and inflation and bring us prosperity and growth, which of course pays for the NHS that we love so much. Let's say yes to recovery, rejuvenation, new ideas, innovation, a modern digital economy in which our expertise in green energy, tech, retail, culture, marketing and financial services will see us leaving great industrial nations like Germany biting our dust. Let's say yes to one society, one community, one population, one British people, not divided sects and interest groups who never want to see us come together. Britain has always been a diverse nation, the ultimate global melting pot. So let's celebrate our diversity and not dismantle it. Let's say yes to our history, understand its greatness and acknowledge its flaws. Let's say yes to a diversity of opinion. Let's say yes to free speech and use it like it's going out of fashion. Engage, disagree, fight, yell, cajole, and then seek common ground. Let's say yes to shopping in an actual shop, trying stuff on, buying things that neither fit you nor suit you, but you've got to have. Say yes to eating out, attending parties galore, and getting too close sometimes to people you've barely met. Of course, working from home will be a big part of the mix, and that's no bad thing. But let's say yes to getting off the internet as much as possible and going into the office and seeing people face to face and popping to Sainsbury's or Pret for your lunch. Who doesn't love a cheeky meal deal? Say yes to office parties, to work-based collaboration, to water cooler chats about Strictly and Love Island. Say yes to a chance encounter with the boss about a new idea, a new position or a pay rise. And say yes to a stolen romantic glance with Sandra from sales. Say yes to a new year, not a new normal. Say yes to freedom, say yes to health. Say yes to danger and yes to fun. Say yes to life itself. And let's say yes with a big smile on our faces, one we can all see, to a very happy new year. What's your reaction to my big opinion? Mark at gbnews.uk. Let me know and I'll get your thoughts on the national airwaves shortly. With me now and throughout the show is my all-star panel. Tonight, author and social worker Chris Wilde, political commentator Alice Grant and comedian Nick Dixon. Alice, let me start with you. What are your thoughts about COVID measures that we've seen inflicted on children in the course of the pandemic?
Mark, what you said was so true, especially the fact that children in any civilized society really would come first. And in this, over the last 2 years in this pandemic, we've seen them persistently pushed to the back and treated as though their lives, their futures are just disposable. What they must think of us with all this hysteria from scientists, from politicians, and possibly from their teachers. My heart really goes out to the children who are standing up courageously, taking off their masks in schools, because I can imagine how much pressure there must be to keep up the charade, the pantomime that, you know, masks would actually help when, as you just showed in the Telegraph standard article, that the evidence to support they actually do anything is inconclusive. So.
I mean, of course, Alice, policymakers would argue that they're simply trying to stop the spread of a nasty virus. They're trying to maintain hospital capacity.
Well, the evidence simply doesn't show that they work. And without any evidence and without any logic and rationality, I think this policy should be completely scrapped on that basis. It doesn't stand up to scrutiny, and especially when you take into account all the factors which show that this affects the learning of children and how they're able to communicate with their teachers, and in fact that it is actually unhygienic to have a rag placed on your face for 6 hours.
Chris Wilde, you've written movingly about the plight of young people in our society. What are your thoughts about how we've treated children in the last 2 years?
I think you use that word child abuse gently, and I think we should be using that a little bit more. It's a deprivation of liberty. Let me give you some facts here. There's a waiting list for nearly 3 years for young people to see CAMHS. Can you imagine? I have an 8-year-old daughter, you know, and coming home from school and having all these things imploded in your mind, having all these things, you know, just pushed down on you, it's frightening. And that psychological damage, what we've done to our children in the last 2 years, it's going to take 10 years to repair. And my worry, as a father, I have somebody working with young, vulnerable children and young people within the care sector as well, is there will be no fixture. You know, this will have a long-term psychological effect on their well-being, their work life, their relationships. It's damaging, and I think we need to use that word more, Mark. It is child abuse.
Nick Dixon, what's your view on the issue of children and the pandemic?
Well, I'm going to have to be pro-mask now just to be different, aren't I? It's going to destroy my whole brand. I'm joking, guys. We'll never do it. No, I'm completely against masks. But we've been sold this idea that masks are not a big deal. You'll hear that a lot. Or it's just to put it on your face. It's not a big deal. It's a big deal for loads of people. I mean, imagine being in Sainsbury's for 8 hours with a mask. But since we're talking about children, there was a study the other day that said 94% of teachers said that communication was more difficult in a mask. 80% of pupils said the same, and 55% of people said it made learning more difficult. So masks are a big deal, but people will make these outrageous claims. Someone said to me the other day, I said, what if we had to wear masks forever? I mean, what happens to human emotions and the facial responses? What about smiles? And they said to me, oh, we could just do a thumbs up instead. It's like, really? We've banned the smile. That's gone, is it now? So you get these ridiculous technocratic conversations that we're just going to live in this dystopian world where we all wear masks. But actually, masks are a big deal, and they're a terrible idea.
However, Nick, I don't think there are too many people saying that masks are the silver bullet. It's been argued by sage advisors and others that they work as part of a suite of measures, and that if masking at a time when cases are obviously very high as a result of the Omicron variant, well, if they just bring the transmission down fractionally, that will save lives.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen the evidence that they really do bring transmission down. It certainly, anecdotally, doesn't seem like they do, given that we have all these cases and yet we've been wearing masks. There doesn't seem to be a single instance of a country or area that has employed masks and it's made any kind of difference.
Better than nothing?
I don't think so, because I think they cause a lot of harm, and I think the benefits are questionable and the harms are definite.
And what are your thoughts, Nick, about 2022? Are you optimistic that we are through the worst of the pandemic?
I'm really optimistic that we're through the worst of the pandemic. I mean, of course, there can always be another variant, but it does seem to be that it's becoming milder. I'm less optimistic about the political side of the virus because we see talk about vaccine passports. We see the rhetoric against the unvaccinated ramping up from people like Justin Trudeau and Macron. So I'm optimistic about the virus side, less so about the political side, but I also am optimistic about people and their ability to fight back against it.
Chris Wilde, what are your thoughts about how the year is going to pan out? Will it be better than 2021?
I hope so, but it's you know, the dichotomy is there that, you know, there's such a divide at the moment in the country where people are saying, you know, we've got to adapt to this. This is here forever. Then we've got, the conspiracy theorists who are, there's something bigger coming. It's around the corner. I just don't know what to think at the moment. I'm confused. I've got anxiety myself. I'm optimistic. I hope it gets better. I hope we find a long-term solution. But in the interim, you've just got to adapt to it, accept it, and try and live your best life without letting it destroy it. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't think it's a conspiracy. I think it's a cock-up. And I think that there's a generation of politicians globally and scientific advisors who have pinned their colours to the mast of lockdowns, face coverings, social distancing and all the rest of it. And I tend to agree with Nick that it really hasn't had the desired effect. I haven't noticed an identifiable improvement in the outcomes of territories and countries that had strict measures versus those that had a light touch approach. But Alice, what do you think about 2022? What's going to happen?
Well, I think there'll be certainly very big things ahead. Perhaps I'm one of those people who think that there is an agenda behind this. But I do have hope for a future in which there'll be a strong leader who will be able to re-energise and reinvigorate our economy, because that will really be necessary. I think a lot of strong leadership in order to take us up from what will be the aftermath of countless lockdowns, COVID restrictions, which have obviously suffocated our businesses and are causing a lot of issues. So I think strong leadership is necessary. I just hope that we can find that in the Conservative Party coming forward.
I think you'll agree we are knocking it out of the park with our panel tonight. Nick Dixon, Alice Grant and Chris Wilde are with me right through until 11. Don't forget, tonight sees the season premiere of the amazing show Headliners. That's right, live 7 days a week now, weekend headliners. I'm in the host's chair every Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Very excited about that one, but lots more to get through in the next couple of hours. In our news agenda with my panel, is technology making us less safe and less happy? Has it taken over our lives? We'll get to that shortly. And in the big question next, should we stop mass testing for COVID? We'll hear from all sides. We're also going to speak to the leader of the Heritage Party, David Kurten, a rare politician who believes in freedom. He's live at 10. Get your questions in, mark@gbnews.uk, and your reaction to my big opinion. Get your opinions over and I'll get them on the air very shortly. First up, the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello, it's looking rather changeable across the UK through this weekend, with some heavy rain and some strong winds for many parts on Saturday. Sunshine and showers, though, by Sunday, and temperatures will be a little bit higher than they have been of late. If we look at the pressure pattern then, you can see the reason why. This frontal system will continue to spread in from the west over the next 24 hours, bringing that heavy rain and strong winds. But ahead of it, some quite cold air in place across the UK. So as we see rain clearing eastern parts, a real risk of some icy patches across parts of England, with a warning in force for that. But cloud will thicken as we head through the night as rain spreads its way eastward. Some of that rain could be quite heavy, and we could see a spell of snow across high ground in northern England and Scotland for a time once again. It'll still be cold in the east, but further towards the west, those temperatures will lift through the night, so turning noticeably milder as we head through the early hours of Saturday morning. So we get off to a rather wet start on Saturday morning, a really quite disappointing start to the weekend, really. Some quite heavy rain around, still some snow across higher ground of Scotland for a time, and particularly heavy rain across South Wales and southwest England through the day, and still those strong winds accompany that rain as well. Now gradually that will clear the southeast later on in the day, and behind it brighter, sunnier skies, still a rash of showers though, and again wintry across parts of the north, and still staying windy with gales towards the southwest. A milder day though, like I said. Now through the rest of Saturday into the evening and overnight, still a mixture then by this point of clear spells and showers. Some of the showers again could be quite heavy, particularly towards the north and the west, still wintry over higher ground in particular, but in those clear skies with that cold air in place once again, it will turn chilly. Temperatures in towns and cities probably hovering just above freezing, but colder than that in the countryside, so again we could see some frost and ice around. So as we start Sunday morning, then generally a brighter start to the day compared to Saturday morning. Some sunshine first thing, still though some showers towards the north and the west, again wintry in places. Through the day, some of those showers will start to feed their way eastwards, and we could see a more organised band of rain and hill snow through the afternoon. Temperatures a little bit lower than they will be on Saturday, I think feeling chilly if you're in those showers. Quick look ahead to the early part of next week then, a lot of cloud around, some patchy rain in places, but gradually turning drier through the week and staying mild.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Big reaction to my big opinion monologue. Let's have a look at this. This is Dylan. Mark, I agree with what you've just said in your big opinion about masks in schools. I totally agree. I'm in year 11 down in East Sussex, and my school is ridiculous. They open all the windows and don't turn on the heating, so it's freezing, even knowing we're dying of hypothermia instead of COVID. The heads of schools still won't let us wear coats or hoodies in the classroom. They demanded that we go outside at breaks and force us to wear a mask on our faces. I don't personally wear muzzles. I think they're useless. The only reason I sometimes wear one is just to keep me a bit warmer. I feel like I'm in Antarctica. Dylan, thank you so much for your message. Jim says, Mark, Sage told us not to wear masks until they changed their minds overnight and as one. The press has not had a single word to say about this U-turn. Well, Jim, we're trying to put that right here at GB News. Let's have a look at Rod's email. Mark, Mayor Khan in London stated that masks should be worn because it makes people feel safe. Nothing about efficacy at all. Sums the rulers up. Gloria, hi, Mark, you talk such truth. I had a very controlling marriage in the 1970s that I thought I'd put behind me years ago. However, here in Scotland, being controlled as to where I can go, who I can see, and after 2 jabs, a booster and a flu jab, I've had enough. It's a form of abuse without being in a relationship. And God help the mental health of our children. Gloria, thank you so much for that. Ash, hi again, Mark. You ask what the hell they're thinking, these policymakers. The answer is they aren't. We're suffering in schools and I'm furious. Our sole purpose in school is to protect everyone around us. What happened to the older generations teaching us, helping us, preparing us for when we get careers. And preparing us does not mean leaving us with minimal jobs, no houses, and continually growing bills. Please help us now and stop making us the scapegoats. And that's Ash, aged 16. Ash, what an articulate and brilliantly written email. Some pushback as well. Let me make sure I get to it because I want to hear from all sides on this one. Because it is diversity of views on this programme. This is from Jim, who says, Mark, you are a newsreader/journalist. You are not an expert or an elected representative. Quite simply, I do not agree with you. Well, Jim, thank you for sharing your view. Keep them coming. Mark at gbnews.uk. It's time now for the big question, in which we tackle a major news story of the day from opposing points of view. Tonight, should we end mass COVID testing? given the huge numbers of people in the health service and in the wider community who are self-isolating at home, often with no symptoms. To debate this, I'm delighted to welcome GP Dr. Katie Musgrave and Senior Clinical Lecturer at the University of Exeter, Dr. David Strain. Great to have you both on the programme. Dr. Musgrave, can I start with you? Do you think we should end mass testing?
Yes, I do. I think of asymptomatic individuals, particularly children. I think the time has come when it's now disproportionate to test them on a frequent basis, and I think it's actually causing them harm. I think it's a screening test with no justification under the normal rules that you would use to apply screening tests on a healthy population. And frankly, I think it needs to stop, especially when applied to young, vulnerable children who we should be protecting and putting their health as a priority.
And Dr. Musgrave, why do you see this testing as harmful to children and young people?
Well, both as a parent myself and as a GP, I'm aware that it's distressing. I have a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I have to physically restrain them every time I take them for a test or do a lateral flow test. There are tears, they cry. Friends tell me that their children have refused the nasal flu spray, which is ordinarily a very simple, minor spray up the nostril of young children, but their children have phobias of things going near their noses. And I think we've just done it so many times for such a length of time. And it is an invasive and uncomfortable test, and children don't understand why it's being done to them. I think it's very clearly quite harmful. Yeah.
Are there any other groups, Dr. Musgrave, that you think should be spared these tests?
I guess the question is going to be moving forward, how we apply testing. I think generally speaking, ordinarily, I view disease as being something that comes with symptoms and illness. So if you're testing someone with no symptoms and no signs of illness, it's a screening test rather than an ordinary diagnostic test. So different rules apply for that. So I think using the view of this as a screening test, you have to have a much higher threshold for having reasons to do the test on the population widely. So yes, I think really we should be reducing mass testing of the population, and I would support that if it was brought in by the government, certainly.
Would you consider limiting it to those that enter a healthcare setting and perhaps someone working in a care home? Would that be enough, do you think?
I think it would be a natural progression to move testing towards care workers, NHS staff, people attending hospital for routine appointments, for example, screening people as they enter a hospital like we would do for MRSA, that sort of thing. That's a natural progression. And I think we need to think seriously about moving in that direction when, especially with children, I can see harm that is being caused by the testing, and I'm not convinced it's proportionate anymore.
Dr. David Strain, wonderful to have you back on the show. You're the expert, I'm not, but I think that anybody that hasn't got symptoms shouldn't be tested. What's your view, sir?
Actually, I agree a lot with a lot of what Dr. Musgrove have just said. There is a lot of testing that takes place with no purpose. And as she rightly points out, screening for people who are completely asymptomatic and are at no risk to themselves or the people around them at that time is not warranted at the moment. However, I would put the caveat in that asymptomatic carriers can quite easily spread COVID to people who are immunocompromised, to people who are vulnerable. And remember, not every disability is visible. So I would suggest that we need to expand the screening program to anybody who is working with those. So I agree again with Dr. Musgrove that healthcare workers, because we are working with the sick, the immunocompromised and the vulnerable, it makes sense. It may also extend to people working in public sector, so in hospitality, where you, in order to keep your customers safe, you want to make sure that you are not carrying a virus that could potentially infect an immunocompromised with a hidden disability. The bit where I think we do disagree is in the children. At the moment, with Omicron variant, we are seeing it affect children in a way that previous iterations haven't. We didn't see hospitalizations at all with the wild type or with the alpha variant. We just saw 1 or 2 hospitalizations with the delta variant. With Omicron variant, we are seeing actually significant numbers of children being admitted to hospital. Also, we are getting some quite disturbing numbers of children who are affected by long COVID. In the Office of National Statistics yesterday, they suggested that around 117 to 120,000 children have now got long COVID. So they've had a very mild initial illness, but that's left them with inability to concentrate, inability to focus, way beyond the measures of the lockdown alone, way beyond their peers. Around 20,000 children from the first wave have still got symptoms over 12 months later. And remember, in the first couple of waves, it was very rare for children to get COVID at all. So I do think we need to have something in place in order to protect them. I do also agree, though, with Dr. Musgrove that the current lateral flow, the way that we're sticking these things up the nose, is not good for them. I have a 4-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 12-year-old as well, and my 4-year-old absolutely hates it. In hospital, we're moving to lamp testing, so something that can be done with a small cup full of spit. What I would like to see is for the children who don't do it, in order to keep them safe in school. And again, I fully agree with what you said at the top, that we need our children in school. They need to be being educated, but we need to be able to keep them safe there. And something like a lamp test that can be done on a small quantity of saliva instead of these swabs up the nose or swabs to the back of the throat, I think would be absolutely essential to keep children safely in school through the next wave.
David, why do you use the word safety in relation to children and COVID? The bottom line is that, and SAGE have confirmed this, they face scant threat from the virus. And you mentioned long COVID. Well, many medical professionals believe that most symptoms of long COVID disappear after a month. It's often referred to as post-viral syndrome. You'll get it when you've had the flu as well. The bottom line is kids don't have to fear COVID.
So children are being left with symptoms beyond 3 months. As I say, the ONS published their figures yesterday. They've said for adults, it's running at around 1.3 million adults have got it. Around 250,000 adults have got major debility to their livelihood. And about 500,000 adults have had symptoms for more than 12 months. The numbers are much smaller for children. It's about 120,000 children in the UK have got symptoms have lasted beyond 3 months. And so Terence Stevenson did the study where he looked carefully at children who had tested positive for COVID in the first 2 waves versus children who had tested negative for COVID. And he saw a massive discrepancy in these symptoms of fatigue, of the inability to concentrate, which is impacting on their schooling and their learning. Now, it's important to say, in the first few waves, it was really unusual for children to catch COVID at all. With the Omicron variant, we know children are catching it. And actually, many of the numbers that we've seen have been disproportionately influenced by children who, you rightly say, have very few symptoms. I mean, the hospitalization rates for children are now at about 4 per 100,000, which is still a very, very small number. Yeah. But if you're the parent of one of those 4, that is a very worrying thing if they've got that in school that could have been easily prevented.
But perhaps children are getting it because it's more like the common cold. The Mail Online are reporting with a remarkable headline that Omicron could be 100 times less threatening than the Delta variant. And David, you're trying to pitch to me that somehow Omicron is a greater threat than Delta. I don't think any scientist in the world takes that view.
I'm not at all saying that Omicron is a greater threat. Actually, Omicron has done a tremendous job at preventing this IHU variant that they were talking about in France coming through, because that actually had the potential to be dangerous, but wasn't as infectious. And actually, Omicron has probably saved us from that IHU sweeping through. But it's important to say these numbers are very much conflated by the success of the vaccine. We are still seeing patients who are unvaccinated coming into hospital, going to ITU, and very tragically dying if they are not vaccinated. And remember, none of our children are vaccinated. None of our children under the age of 12 are vaccinated as yet, apart from one or two who've got some very specific conditions. And what we don't know, and I am stressing, we don't know, I don't know for certain one way or the other, what the long-term impact of Omicron will be on children. We know the way that the COVID virus affects our cells. It does affect metabolism. I really hope and pray that it doesn't cause any long-term consequences to the children who've got it this time. I really hope we don't. But nobody knows for certain. And until we have that knowledge, we need to be being as safe as possible for our children.
Well, David, I just think we're fighting a losing battle trying to control this virus. I think we failed when we tried to control the first outbreak, and here we are with Omicron, which is so extraordinarily infectious. There is some evidence now to suggest that you can get Omicron transmitted outside from somebody wearing a mask, and you've got a mask as well. So it seems that Omicron is going to do its thing, but obviously I defer to your knowledge on that one. Katie Musgrave, what do you think about long COVID and generally the threat to children from this virus?
Well, speaking personally as a GP and looking across my population and children that I work with, I have to say that I feel that the interventions that we've taken as a country, the decisions that we've made, have caused far, far, far more harm to children than COVID will cause in 1,000 years. Sending children home from school for months on end, sometimes to abusive households, sadly sometimes to households where children were killed by their parents, as we know now. Statistically significant increases in abuse, in death from abuse, huge increases in eating disorders, anxiety, mental distress amongst children. And as is widely accepted, COVID does not pose a significant risk to our children's health. We might worry that Omicron might pose a potential risk to their health, but every year there have been circulating viruses which potentially might have posed risks to their health. And we've never kept them out of school before. We've never caused them harm in such a huge fashion. I think our response, we've transferred the harms that we've seen to old age groups, vulnerable age groups, people with comorbidities. We've taken those harms and we've transferred them, to our shame, to the young people in our society who weren't at risk. We've put them at risk by the decisions that we've made as a country. And I think it's appalling personally. And, I would hope that moving forward, we'll be able to put children first. We'll be able to say, actually, maybe testing isn't in their best interests in the longer term. Maybe normality is in their best interest. Maybe positivity, hopefulness for the future, focusing on the positive things that they have ahead of them in life should be our priority. And as a GP, I've just seen enormous amounts of distress and children who now refuse to go to school because they're so anxious about walking through the school gates. And it frustrates me and it saddens me that we can't take that knowledge that we have about COVID and the risk profile across the population and use it sensibly and say, actually, children should have normal childhoods. They should have normal education. We should be protecting them for the future, because I think that's our job as a society. And I think we've failed, frankly.
Briefly, final thoughts, Dr. David Strain?
I agree with a lot of what Dr. Musgrove has just said. I would love my children to be back in school completely normal. I think a question for another day is whether the last step to keep them safe is that vaccine, the low-dose vaccine for the 5 to 11-year-olds, which we know reduces the very, very small numbers who end up sick, and it does have an impact on the risk of long COVID. Maybe that's a conversation for another day, but just like Dr. Musgrove, I want our children to be back in school. I want them to go back to their healthy educational program. I want all of them to get that healthy educational program, not just the ones who are lucky enough not to be the 1 in 10 who ends up with long COVID.
David, great to have you back on the show. Happy New Year to your good self. David Strain is the Senior Clinical Lecturer at the University of Exeter, good friend of the show, and a first appearance from NHS GP Dr. Katie Musgrave. Thank you so much for your time as well, Katie. Well, over to you, folks. Mark at gbnews.uk. What do you think? Should we scale back mass testing and want more thoughts on masks in the classroom, please. There's still time for you to get your questions in to my Mark Meets guest at 10, the leader of the Heritage Party, a rare politician, one that believes in freedom. David Kurten is live at 10, so get your questions in now. Once again, mark@gbnews.uk. But next up in the news agenda with my amazing panel, is technology making us unsafe, unprosperous and unhappy? And don't forget, I'll be hosting the brand new weekend premiere of Headliners at 11. A big couple of hours to come. I'll see you after this.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'll get to your emails shortly, but I'm delighted to welcome my fantastic panel back to the sofa. Author Chris Wilde, political commentator Alice Grant, and comedian and the eye candy on tonight's show, Nick Dixon.
Not even there. Oh, there it is.
I tell you what.
Not even in a close shot.
Our camera operator wasn't tempted to do a close-up.
Oh,
there you
it
go.
Thank you.
Let's
the eye candy.
Show off
Finally.
that handsome beard.
Bit of bias going on here.
Yeah, definitely. It's very, very unfair. Bit of favouritism. Well, look, let's crack on with our first story. Is technology becoming so advanced that it's making us unsafe? Apple is facing a backlash as women say they're being tracked by strangers using a brand new Apple product called an AirTag. The tracking device, which costs as little as £29 and is designed to help people locate items like their keys, phone and pets, can be easily concealed in a car by a stalker or a perpetrator of domestic abuse. It's a tiny little device about the size of a 10p piece. It comes as women have called for the product to be recalled, with one TikTok user, Kayla Malek, an artist from America, revealing in a viral video how that exact situation had happened to her. Take a look and have a listen.
Okay, so somebody put an AirTag on my car. I got the notification last night that there was an AirTag moving with me. So I think I want to cry more that I found it. My chest feels like it's, like my heart feels like it's going to come out of my throat. Okay, look. It's right here. I don't know how to get it out. Do you see it? It's literally right there. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. Like, I'm really nauseous right now.
Deeply troubling stuff. So are we too much in the pocket of technology? Take a look at this advert from the Irish government, which I think is hellishly dystopian.
Can we go in here? Can I see clothes start, please?
as I said on Twitter earlier this week, welcome to hell. So what do we think? Has technology gone too far? What do you think, Chris?
Wow, yeah, it's for me, it's horrifying. When I was growing up as a kid, it was better to see your enemy, and now technology has created an invisible enemy, especially with the kind of work I do. For the last 2 years, I've been involved in the online bill, which, you know, by the time that gets through to Parliament, technology has advanced even more. So even if you come up with these solutions to protect people, you can't, because technology just is so far ahead. For me, it's worrying as well. You know, working in the care sector with young people, you're constantly trying to, you know, find ways to keep young people safe, keep children safe, your own children. And when you see little devices like that, it gives you nightmares. And there's got to be some accountability. These big tech giants who are creating these have to sit down around a table and look at the consequences, look at the ramifications of the things they're inventing. Because what they're doing is they're putting our children at risk. I don't want to, you know, can you imagine that as a father coming home, finding a little device in your daughter's bag? It would give me nightmares. It would make me want to do unthinkable things. Technology will damage and destroy humanity, fact.
And the big problem, Alice, is that actually you don't even need one of these AirTags, because most phones have a sort of GPS chip within them. In fact, Mrs. Dolan knows where I am 24/7. I guess she's entitled to, but I still find it a bit creepy.
Yeah, actually, my sister tracks me too. But actually, I think what's even more frightening is that...
Does she know you're at GB News?
Perhaps, yeah. What's even more frightening is that I think that this is going to actually... We've already seen Elon Musk, for example, who's already developing an actual microchip which can be implanted within the human body. And, I mean, we're talking about, you know, hellish dystopia. This is it, really. I mean, to have... this power, which inevitably it will fall into the wrong hands, it can be extremely concerning. And I think I do not trust the government one bit, and I definitely would not have a microchip with any sort of GPS capacities, because no doubt it would be used for harm, for authoritarian purposes, and I think that's sadly what perhaps lies in store, especially since he's teaming up with good old metaverse creator. So
Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg.
Yes, this horrible virtual reality.
I know, and they want
Facebook
they want this
proposing.
implanted in your forehead. And yes, it can be used for some medical purposes, which could be perhaps helpful. But there's also another side which we must be vigilant to, which is the destructive and totalitarian aspects of these sort of technologies.
It's a weapon, isn't it? It's a weapon.
It is.
That's what it is.
Briefly, if you can, Nick, I mean, the bottom line is genie's out of the lamp, isn't it?
Yeah, why is it always technology that does more intrusive things? Why is it never like a technology that stops microchips getting in you, or like an app that ends all lockdowns or something? We tinker too much. China the other day was making a nuclear fusion reactor 5 times hotter than the sun. The sun's hot enough, guys. Am I right?
Now you're talking, I tell you
Not
what.
in Britain.
That stops lockdowns sounds quite good to me. Lots more from my panel in the next hour. Don't forget, my Mark Meets guest is a leader of a brand new political party. It is the Heritage Party. It's David Kurten. He's live at 10, so get your questions in, mark@gbnews.uk. And I'm hosting Headliners. It's the premiere episode of Weekend Headliners. But first up, here's your weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello, it's looking rather changeable across the UK through this weekend, with some heavy rain and some strong winds for many parts on Saturday. Sunshine and showers, though, by Sunday, and temperatures will be a little bit higher than they have been of late. If we look at the pressure pattern then, you can see the reason why. This frontal system will continue to spread in from the west over the next 24 hours, bringing that heavy rain and strong winds. But ahead of it, some quite cold air in place across the UK. So as we see rain clearing eastern parts, a real risk of some icy patches across parts of England, with a warning of force for that. But cloud will thicken as we head through the night as rain spreads its way eastward. Some of that rain could be quite heavy, and we could see a spell of snow across high ground in northern England and Scotland for a time once again. It'll still be cold in the east, but further towards the west, those temperatures will lift through the night, so turning noticeably milder as we head through the early hours of Saturday morning. So we get off to a rather wet start on Saturday morning, a really quite disappointing start to the weekend, really. Some quite heavy rain around, still some snow across higher ground of Scotland for a time, and particularly heavy rain across south Wales and southwest England through the day, and still those strong winds accompany that rain as well. Now, gradually that will clear the southeast later on in the day, and behind it, brighter, sunnier skies. Still a rash of showers though, and again wintry across parts of the north, and still staying windy with gales towards the southwest. A milder day though, like I said. Now, through the rest of Saturday into the evening and overnight, still a mixture then by this point of clear spells and showers. Some of the showers again could be quite heavy, particularly towards the north and the west. Still wintry over higher ground in particular, but in those clear skies with that cold air in place once again, it will turn chilly. Temperatures in towns and cities probably hovering just above freezing, but colder than that in the countryside. So again, we could see some frost and ice around. So as we start Sunday morning, then generally a brighter start to the day compared to Saturday morning. Some sunshine first thing. Still, though, some showers towards the north and the west. Again, wintry in places. Through the day, some of those showers will start to feed their way eastwards, and we could see a more organised band of rain and hill snow through the afternoon. Temperatures a little bit lower than they will be on Saturday. I think feeling chilly if you're in those showers. Quick look ahead to the early part of next week. Then a lot of cloud around, some patchy rain in places, but gradually turning drier through the week and staying mild.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview Channel 236.
On Sky, we're Channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Another action-packed hour to come. Shortly, Sir Tony Blair will get the We Feel Your Pain treatment, and then I'll be sitting down with the leader of the Heritage Party, David Kurten. He's live at 10. I'll also be getting a fitness guru's top tips on how to shed those festive pounds before I tackle some of the day's big stories with my all-star panel. And don't forget, the premiere episode of Weekend Headliners starts at 11. I'm in the host's chair. We've got the big stories from tomorrow's papers with a brilliant comedian-led panel. So a busy 2 hours to come. First up, the headlines with Karen.
Thank you, Mark. These are your headlines. More than 1,000 military personnel have been brought in to help with the vaccine rollout in parts of the UK. The armed forces are supporting the NHS in England, Scotland and Wales as hospital staff absences rise 59% in a week due to isolation. This comes as the Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, warns that 70% of patients in intensive care with COVID are unvaccinated. Bupa's former Chief Medical Officer, Andrew Vallance-Owen, has told GB News the move is positive for the NHS.
People should be reassured that we've had the sense to bring the army in. We saw during the crisis last year, that the Nightingale hospitals were almost built and staffed by the army, and they did a brilliant job.
Downing Street says England's new relaxed travel rules won't affect the country's ability to detect COVID variants. Travellers no longer need to take a pre-departure COVID test before returning to England from today, but they must do a lateral flow test when they arrive. Industry expert Paul Charles told GBNews that previous travel restrictions were not effective.
The government felt, from a health point of view, they had to introduce these tough, onerous restrictions from the outset. They haven't worked. They haven't stopped Omicron coming into the UK.
Labour MP Jack Dromey has died suddenly at his flat in Birmingham. He was 73. It's understood he died of natural causes. The Labour Party has issued a statement on behalf of his family and his wife, who is long-serving Labour MP Harriet Harman, saying he'd been a dedicated MP for Birmingham Erdington since 2010 and will be greatly missed. A second arrest has been made in the investigation of the killing of Dariusz Wolosz. A 27-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of murder of the 46-year-old who was stabbed to death in West London on Tuesday. A 13-year-old boy who was arrested yesterday has been released on bail until early February. Mr. Wolosz, who was Polish, was attacked by a group of men near to his home following a row in West Drayton. And Hollywood actor Sir Sidney Poitier has died. He was 94. The Bahamian-American star won an Oscar for Best Actor for his role in Lilies of the Field. He was the first black man to win the coveted award, helping to pave the way for generations of African-American actors. Whoopi Goldberg is among those paying tribute, saying, "Poitier showed us to reach for the stars." And Lenny Kravitz says, "Sir Sidney Poitier, the doors you opened and paths you created will continue to make way for those with a dream. You showed the world that with vision and grace, all is possible." You are right up to date. Now back to Mark Dolan tonight.
There we are. Well, thank you so much to Karen for those headlines. A really busy couple of hours on the show. Big reaction to my big opinion. Carl, our media guru here at GB News, is working from home. He's crafted a monologue which you can now find at GB News. Take a look. What do you think? Strong views from Pete Morris. Mark, in regard to your topic of mass testing, and should it be stopped, my view, cynical as it may be, is that the only reason the government are mass testing people is to inflate the numbers, to maintain the scare factor and keep their narrative alive. That's it. No more, no less. Well, look, thank you so much for that, Pete. I'll get to more of your thoughts very, very shortly indeed. It's time now for an occasional item that we do on the show called We Feel Your Pain, in which we reach out to a celebrity that's going through a tough time. Tonight, former Prime Minister Tony Blair. Tony Blair has been awarded a knighthood in the New Year's Honours List. This ought to be the pinnacle of a career which has seen 3 election wins for a previously unelectable Labour Party. The boy done good. He did so well. But unfortunately, this decision has been received coolly by the British public since it was announced. In fact, the decision to knight Tony Blair has proved more unpopular than James Blunt's latest album, Line of Duty's season finale, and James Corden's disturbing performance in the film adaptation of Cats. But it seems the biggest pussy of all is our Tony, as over 1 million people sign a petition to have the knighthood reversed. So what's gone so wrong for this permatanned ex-premier? I wonder if it's his decision to take us into an illegal war with Iraq that saw the death of hundreds of Allied servicemen and women and thousands of Iraqi civilians. Perhaps those signing this petition had taken a cursory glance at the Chilcot inquiry which deemed the grounds for war to be flaky at best. Perhaps others are worried about a prime minister that effectively sowed the seeds of Brexit by needlessly lifting immigration rules when countries in the Eastern Bloc joined the EU, something that didn't need to happen and which many think was motivated by a desire on the part of our Tony to eventually become president of Europe. Perhaps those signing the petition will cite the fact that the financial markets were left unregulated on his watch, helping to precipitate the credit crunch, a sovereign debt crisis, and one of the biggest economic downturns in living memory. Don't forget one outgoing Treasury Minister from the Labour Party, Liam Byrne, on departing office, wrote this note to the incoming coalition government. He wrote, "Sorry, there's no money left." Perhaps those signing the petition noted that Tony Blair didn't build enough houses and squandered a decade of economic growth, whilst astonishingly his partner in crime next door, Gordon Brown, actually borrowed money as the economy grew. Explain that one to me. Perhaps those signing the petition remember that Tony Blair pushed for Britain's membership of the euro. He wanted the euro, a measure that would have seen us powerless to intervene in our economy in the way that we did in 2010. What about letting scores of terrorists escape justice in Northern Ireland? Perhaps those signing the petition are former Labour voters confused that this iconic socialist appears to have been focused on making tens of millions of pounds since his departure from office. It seems even the Queen isn't that much of a fan, given that she's waited over a decade to bestow this honour. So Tony Blair gets a knighthood, but he doesn't get what he really wants, which is popularity, respect, and a positive legacy following 3 terms in office. Sadly, no amount of lipstick will make a pig pretty. You can't polish a turd. And no amount of titles or fancy decorations on your lapel will make you a great Prime Minister. Which is why Sir Tony, we feel your pain. It's time now for Mark Meets, in which I speak to the biggest names in the world of politics, entertainment, sport, business, academia, and simply those that have a big story to tell. Tonight, I'm delighted to welcome that rare beast, a politician in 2022 that actually believes in freedom. I'm delighted to welcome to GB News the leader of the Heritage Party, David Kurten. Hi, David.
Hi, Mark. Thank you. Great to be with you.
Great to have you on the programme. Why did you decide to form the Heritage Party?
I think at the start of the first lockdown, there was a need for something, and something I was thinking of for a while, because there wasn't what I call a socially conservative party. So, something that basically stands for all the things we thought were common sense 30 or 40 years ago, but which are now derided by the mainstream and the London political bubble, if you like. First of all, the sort of extreme political correctness that we call wokery, and then the lockdown and the taking away of freedom, standing up for traditional family values, defending our heritage, financial responsibility, not wasting taxpayers' money, but actually using it for the benefit of people rather than the vested interests. And we need a party that's just going to stand for all those things. And there wasn't one. So I created the Heritage Party with a few other people back in the beginning of 2020. And then we launched in September 2020. And I think there's more of a need for us now than there was then, given what's happened over the last couple of years.
How much is the existence of the party based around the culture wars and battling extreme political correctness, or what they call woke culture?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very big part of what we stand for. And, I was on the London Assembly for 5 years beforehand. I was in UKIP back in the day before the referendum for Brexit. But one of the reasons I got into politics was to fight political correctness, because I could see that, you're just saying normal things, having a bit of a joke, having a banter in the pub, or having opinions which are just traditional or conservative in the small c, so socially conservative sense of the word, were getting more and more cancelled and banned. And you know, so that is a really big part of what we stand for. In fact, there's a section in our manifesto that says free speech and liberty, and we've got to stand up for that, because everyone should have the right to say, you know, whatever they want, express any political opinion in any debate, whatever they like to do, as long as they're not inciting violence, which obviously you don't want that to happen. But, you know, you should be able to express your opinions on, for example, transgenderism. But you find more and more with these kind of issues, you're getting cancelled and banned and even kicked out of your job for having what's deemed to be the wrong opinions. And this is so wrong. This is authoritarianism. This is totalitarianism. And I don't think it has any place in our country. And we've got to fight it and get rid of it and get back to a place where people feel free to say what they want without being threatened.
Now, David, the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, and the leader of the opposition, Keir Starmer, have both failed to say the following sentence: only women have a cervix. What's your position on that?
Well, that's absolutely true, isn't it? Of course, only women have a cervix and vice versa. You know, there's two sexes, there's male and female. You cannot change your sex. I don't recognise that there's something different to biological sex, which people call gender. I don't recognise the existence of gender. This is something that's been fabricated, first of all, in very, very loony departments in universities in the United States, in places like Berkeley, and Colombia and those places in the 1950s, 1960s. It's come across here and it's been mainstreamed. So now we have this whole gender ideology that is sort of infesting everywhere. And people now want to bring it into schools and teach children, you know, even in primary school children, that there's 100 different genders, that you can decide whether you're a boy or a girl. As you grow older, you can change your gender from day to day. And this is utterly ridiculous. It's utter lunacy. You know, what adults can do whatever they want. You know, I've got no problem if someone wants to dress up in clothes of the opposite sex, that's fine. But I'm not, you know, don't compel me to affirm something that isn't true. And don't confuse kids with something that isn't true. I mean, that's my opinion, and that's where I would draw the line on those things.
Yes, I mean, if somebody chose to identify as female, let's say a member of the Heritage Party that was previously George, is now Georgina, would you address her as Georgina?
Look, if I met someone in the pub and that's what they said, that this is what I identify as, look, I'd be polite and I probably would go along with it. But if I'm in a political debate, if I'm in the position ever that I'm in Westminster and I'm in a position to make laws and so on, what I would say is, you know, you can dress up like a woman if you want, but you're still a man. You're a man who's dressed up as a woman, who's pretending to be a woman. And you can do that. That's fine, no problem. But I will not recognise the unreality of you changing biological sex, because that isn't true. You can have extreme surgery. You can even get your face bones shaved off, which is what some people do. But that's just a man who's had extreme surgery. It's not a man who's become a woman. But as I say, if I was in a bar or if I was in a shopping mall or an event, you know, I'm not going to go and have a go at someone for that. But I'm not going to affirm something that isn't real.
Well, it's all about opinions, isn't it, David? I think that's obviously the atmosphere that you want to foster. And someone like Lord Professor Robert Winston, one of the greatest experts on fertility in the world, who said on Question Time on the BBC that it's impossible to change your biological sex. Every cell in your body contains that biological information. So he's certainly got your back on the science side of it. I guess there are others that would say that, a bit like being gay, that you feel that you're born into the wrong body. You might have male physiology, but you feel that you are a woman and wish to be acknowledged as that. I mean, I suppose in the end, it's all about opinions.
Well, I mean, I think it's about scientific facts and reality. And, you know, feelings are not facts, you know, as Ben Shapiro used to say, you know, facts don't recognize your feelings, you know. So, you know, you can feel what you want, but the biological fact, the reality is that you're sex, male or female, is determined by your anatomy at birth and your chromosomes. And so that is what we need to stick to. You know, you can feel anything you like, but that doesn't change the reality of nature and the reality of what is.
And tell me about the Heritage Party. You've won a lot of fans, a lot of supporters, and you've hoovered up plenty of column inches since your birth. Is the existence of the Heritage Party, David, by definition, a critique of the current Conservative Party?
Oh, well, I think it certainly is. And also the Labour Party as well. I mean, neither of them are doing what they were set up to do.
Now, we just lost David Kurten very briefly. David, you've been introduced by our brand new jingle, which my team are rather overzealously playing. But if you continue, so you're plugging the gap somewhat, creating a bit of an opportunity there to take some Tory voters.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think people are just fed up of the Tory party because they're not acting like Conservatives. They're wasting money left, right and centre. They're destroying our public services. We've got mass immigration into the country. They're not doing anything to stop illegal immigration across the Channel, and that's been going on for years and years and years. They haven't done Brexit properly, and now they've taken away our freedom. They're destroying the very fabric of society with lockdowns and now vaccine passports, only for large venues at the moment in England. But, you know, they're going to want to push it like they're doing in Wales and Scotland and Austria and Germany, because the countries around the world are all acting in lockstep together. I don't think they're acting independently. But, you know, so that will come if we don't continue to have mass non-compliance, which is what we've seen. So I think the Conservative Party is totally non-conservative. In fact, it's anti-conservative. So really, I set the Heritage Party up to be a socially conservative party that would do those things that, you know, they used to do 40 years ago. And, you know, also, I think there's a lot of Labour voters who are socially conservative, who are very patriotic, who love the country and are aspirational, just want to get on, do their job, mind their own business, look after their family, grow their wealth, have a house, etc. And they are totally abandoned by Labour. They've abandoned the labouring man and gone after this extreme wokery and all this nonsense. So, you know, there's a lot of Labour people who are politically homeless as well. And I think we will appeal to people across the spectrum just with common sense.
And David, what's your background?
I was a chemistry teacher, actually, for about 20 years before I got actively involved in politics. And so, you know, I did a chemistry degree at St Andrews. I got into that. So, you know, I enjoyed that. I
like Margaret Thatcher. You're a chemist like Margaret Thatcher.
Well, you know, maybe that says something. You know, maybe chemists become prime ministers. Who knows? I mean, I'm not saying, you know, but who knows? But.
And as a scientist, what's your assessment about the COVID measures? And if you were Prime Minister, how would you have handled the pandemic, particularly with the threat of an overwhelmed NHS, David?
I wouldn't have done the lockdown. I mean, the lockdown was ridiculous. I mean, even at the very beginning, you had countries that didn't lock down, like Sweden, and there was no difference between the outcomes of having a lockdown and not having a lockdown. Look, a virus comes, you know, an epidemic happens, it raises to a peak and then it goes down. That's the natural course of an epidemic. But we definitely know now lockdowns didn't work, masks don't work. I don't see these injections of substances from Pfizer, etc., as the way out of lockdowns. I certainly don't think that anyone should be coerced to have them. If they want to have them, fine, but I wouldn't take them myself. What we should have done is prescribe broad-spectrum antivirals like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin with zinc, which were shown by people not paid by the big pharmaceutical companies to actually be safe and effective and cheap, and have been tried and tested over many, many decades. And they worked when they were given to people in the early stages of having, you know, after a SARS-CoV-2 infection. So that's the course I would have taken, and I would then not have had all the destruction of businesses, of the economy, of children's education, of people's mental health, and all the other terrible, bad effects and side effects of having a lockdown that we've had, which actually has been worse than the virus itself.
It's been a fascinating conversation. Briefly, David, I could talk to you all night. You have had, obviously, an amazing career, both in education and in politics, and you've been on the right side of many arguments, including Brexit, when the idea of Brexit was just a twinkle in Nigel Farage's eye. But here we are, we're out of the European Union. You want a proper Brexit. You were born in Sussex, in Littlehampton. Your mum was British, your dad was Jamaican, so I guess that would define you as mixed race?
Yeah, I'm mixed race, that's right, yes.
And what are your thoughts on the current racial tensions that we're seeing in this country and the debate around organisations like Black Lives Matter?
I think it's entirely fabricated and it's been stirred up when there isn't really much there. I mean, you know, I think all this idea of critical race theory is another thing that's attacking the nation and attacking society and trying to make out that we're a bad country when we're not. We're a very, very good country. And people talk incessantly about slavery, 200 years ago. You know, let's look at what's happening now, because actually in the 19th century we ended slavery all over the British Empire, and we spent most of the rest of the time going around the world stopping other countries from engaging in slavery as well, after William Wilberforce got the law through Parliament to end it. So we've got a lot to be proud of. I think, you know, race relations in this country are better almost than anywhere else in the world. And I think that people that continually stoke up this narrative that there is systemic racism in this country, you know, for example, like Sadiq Khan with his new commission to rename the streets and public spaces, I think this is very, very destructive, and it's got to stop. You know, just stop it and be proud of this country, because this is a great country, and I don't accept the narrative that this is a racist country. It's a fantastic country. I've had a great time here, and most people who are of any race have a great time here as well.
David, we've loved having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. I watch with interest how the Heritage Party do at the next local and indeed national elections. There you go. The leader of the Heritage Party, David Kurten. Your reaction, mark@gbnews.uk. Is the Conservative Party really conservative anymore? Would you vote for one of these smaller breakaway parties? Let me know your thoughts. Lots more to come in the news agenda. Should we be worried about air pollution? Would you be willing to change your lifestyle to clean up the air? Plus, a live fitness session in the studio with fitness guru Delvin Clark. I shall be throwing some shapes and you'll be able to join in at home. Plus, another great British game show. And at 11, it is the season premiere of Weekend Headliners. I'll be in the host's chair from 11. So a busy hour and a half to come. First up, the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello, it's looking rather changeable across the UK through this weekend, with some heavy rain and some strong winds for many parts on Saturday. Sunshine and showers, though, by Sunday, and temperatures will be a little bit higher than they have been of late. If we look at the pressure pattern then, you can see the reason why. This frontal system will continue to spread in from the west over the next 24 hours, bringing that heavy rain and strong winds. But ahead of it, some quite cold air in place across the UK. So as we see rain clearing eastern parts, a real risk of some icy patches across parts of England, with a warning of force for that. But cloud will thicken as we head through the night as rain spreads its way eastward. Some of that rain could be quite heavy, and we could see a spell of snow across high ground in northern England and Scotland for a time once again. It'll still be cold in the east, but further towards the west, those temperatures will lift through the night, so turning noticeably milder as we head through the early hours of Saturday morning. So we get off to a rather wet start on Saturday morning, a really quite disappointing start to the weekend, really. Some quite heavy rain around, still some snow across higher ground of Scotland for a time, and particularly heavy rain across south Wales and southwest England through the day, and still those strong winds accompany that rain as well. Now, gradually that will clear the southeast later on in the day, and behind it, brighter, sunnier sky. Still a rash of showers though, and again wintry across parts of the north, and still staying windy with gales towards the southwest. A milder day though, like I said. Now, through the rest of Saturday into the evening and overnight, still a mixture then by this point of clear spells and showers. Some of the showers again could be quite heavy, particularly towards the north and the west. Still wintry over higher ground in particular, but in those clear skies with that cold air in place once again, it will turn chilly. Temperatures in towns and cities probably hovering just above freezing, but colder than that in the countryside. So again, we could see some frost and ice around. So as we start Sunday morning, then generally a brighter start to the day compared to Saturday morning. Some sunshine first thing. Still, though, some showers towards the north and the west. Again, wintry in places. Through the day, some of those showers will start to feed their way eastwards, and we could see a more organised band of rain and hill snow through the afternoon. Temperatures a little bit lower than they will be on Saturday. I think feeling chilly if you're in those showers. Quick look ahead to the early part of next week, then. A lot of cloud around, some patchy rain in places, but gradually turning drier through the week and staying mild.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
It's time now for FAQs, frequently asked questions, in which we take a deep dive into a specific topic in or around the news. It's obviously that time of the year when you and I and the rest of us are thinking about getting fit. But just what is the best way for us to transform our physique into something resembling a Greek god or goddess? Well, to answer that, I'm delighted to welcome fitness guru from vibeconcepts.co.uk. It is Delvin Clark. Hi, Delvin.
Hi, very well said. Perfect.
And it's vibeconcepts.co.uk.
Yes.
Brilliant. And what do Vibe Concepts do?
Well, in the fitness world, we do more or less everything, okay? Step, aerobics, weight training to music, kettlebells, freestyle dance aerobics, you name it, we do a lot.
Well, let's get through a few of the basics, because this is frequently asked questions. What's better, aerobic, or I guess what they call resistance training, which would be weightlifting and things like that? Because aerobic is what? Running, swimming, on the bicycle, and then the resistance training would be lifting heavy things?
Correct.
What's better?
Neither. They're both as good as each other. It depends on the person who's doing it, okay? Some people may suit weight training, and some may suit freestyle fitness aerobics, or even choreographed aerobics. The point that we've got to try and assess here is what's good for the individual, what's really good for them from a physical perspective, and more importantly, from a mental perspective. if they're doing something they don't love, it may have a detrimental effect, meaning they may not get out of it what they want. If you do something you love, you're always going to keep coming back for more, and you'll burn more calories when you're enjoying yourself.
So would some of it also, as you say, it's the makeup of the individual.
Sure.
I guess their goals is a factor too, right? So what would be the best exercise solution for someone that wants to lose a bit of timber?
Well, well, obviously...
Not like you've got that problem.
Well, now this time of the year, Christmas and New Year, everyone's overeating.
Mince pies.
Overdrinking, mince pies, lots of turkey, you name it. The first thing really is just getting off the couch.
Okay.
That's the first thing. If somebody's motivated that way, they're on the right road. Once they get off the couch, they should start basically walking. If they have pets, walk the dog, or just go to a fitness center and start walking on a treadmill. Something really simple like that.
I could walk the wife, couldn't I?
You could walk the wife if she wants to walk with you.
She's not brilliantly trained, I've got to say.
That's okay. Get her fit with you. Get her fit with you, you know? So yeah, start off with just low exercise, low impact exercise. And then once you get more used to exercising and how you feel from it, because feeling is very, very important. That's part of our strapline. We say feel the vibe all the time, because vibe in my business stands for visualization, mind, body, euphoria, VIBE. There's no M in the title because the M stands for your mind, okay? So your mind is invisible, so VIBE, vibe. People will always remember how you make them feel, more so than what you say.
Yeah.
So if you make them feel a vibration that's good to them, that will help them do an exercise and will also keep them coming back for more. Yeah. That's the most important thing to getting fit and healthy. With fitness, you've got to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, you may not come back.
Yeah.
So for me, give that enjoyment factor more than anything, and they'll keep coming back for more. Now, if they don't enjoy it, fine, they don't come back. Some people are more suited to weights, going in the gym because they feel a bit self-conscious doing aerobics or step or something like that.
Yeah.
That's fine, that's fine. But there are classes that may suit people like that. We do a weight training class to music, a very popular class called Vibe Power. That's very popular because it's very strength orientated. So whether you're not so fit, not so strong, it can suit you, and it suits men as well. A lot of men have misconceptions about going into the fitness studio, the dance studio. They think it's a bit girly.
Yes.
It's not, it's far from it. It's the opposite. Because some of them women who do step in aerobics, they're super strong and they're super fit.
So if anyone watching this that hasn't done exercise for quite a long time, maybe they've had a baby or perhaps they just got out of the habit and they're feeling a little nervous about getting back into it, what are the best baby steps? I mean, you mentioned go for a walk and I guess get your heart rate up. What's the next step after that?
Usually in most areas, there's a fitness studio or a dance studio or a fitness gym or big clubs. Go in, have a look at the facilities, speak to the staff, have a look around and look at the timetable. My biggest plug, if you like, is freestyle fitness, okay? When you get an instructor who's loving teaching step or loving teaching aerobics or whatever class they're teaching, that vibration goes to the participant and they pick up on it and it comes back to the...
So actually, and you're suggesting actually classes is a good way in for people?
That's my first and foremost, purely because there's other people there, you can speak to them, you can, it's like a community.
Yeah.
You can see how they've started off, see how they're progressing, and it helps you. Sometimes when you're coming out from, especially from a completely basic background or a non-physical background, you don't know which direction to turn to, so you can speak to people, ask them, and ask the instructor as well.
And have you got your own fitness story, or have you always been an Adonis? I mean, look at those guns, baby.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know, what do you mean? Anyway.
You've entered this studio armed.
Well, I've trained most of my life, really. Yeah. I was an athlete in my school days. I did boxing as well, and I did a lot of physical exercise in lots of different backgrounds. But I've realised the benefit of it, and I try to verbalise that to everybody I speak to who's interested in fitness aerobics. I love fitness, and I love working with people that love it as well, because when people don't know anything about it, we can sometimes change people's lives. You know, I mean, you mentioned earlier on about you doing weight training, you know, and what you got out of that feeling you got out of it. I love that. That's what us in Vibe Concepts, that's what we try to put out there all the time.
Well, yeah, because I started getting into I mean, during lockdown, there wasn't much you could do. Obviously, you could maybe take your chunk of exercise for the day.
Yeah.
I've actually got a pull-up bar at home, which is an unforgiving device.
You know it.
But actually, you know, some of that, you know, what they call it, body weight exercises, which you can do at home, which cost nothing, of course. Press-ups, sit-ups, things like that. And it gave me self-confidence, you know, and that's amazing to think that your physical activity can feed through into your mental health.
Of course, 100%. It's funny you say that. In the home, I train in the home sometimes myself, and sometimes when you're training in the home, you're looking around, you think, you know what, that needs a bit of cleaning. You know what, that needs a bit of dusting. So you can get distracted in the home sometimes when you're doing fitness. That's why coming out of the home in a different environment, when it's purely fitness orientated, you will get more of an enthusiasm towards doing fitness with other people.
Yeah.
But if you can do it in your home, feel free, go for it.
I mean, are there a few tricks of the trade for training from home? Because, I mean, lots of people work from home now. I guess you can do press-ups.
Yeah. Here's a great one for you.
Yeah.
All the viewers out there as well. Bands, rubber bands.
Okay.
They are amazing. You can put them on your feet and pull up like so. You can use them for biceps. You can use them for almost...
And you can buy these online for very little money.
I don't want to plug any...
Oh, please, plug away.
Decathlon.
Yeah.
Go there. They've got different density of rubber bands which you can use in your home, and you can more or less do everything with them. There's loads of different exercises online using them.
And you put this strap on, let's say, on your foot, and then you pull it up. There's resistance in there, so it's a bit like weight training.
Correct. It's exactly the same as weight, but it's better because it assists the joints. When you're using a weight, for instance, like this, the weight's pulling you down, and if you drop it, you can wreck the floor and so on and so forth. So if you've got the rubber bands, it's always there. The tension's always there, and you can use it as... The more tension you have, obviously, the more intensity you can have when you're actually training. So,
what about sometimes when people take exercise, and you often hear that, and I'm sure you'll argue that it gives you energy, it doesn't take away. But I've certainly found at times in the past where I've hit it quite hard, and actually it's left me quite depleted. I mean, is that a concern, and how can that be avoided?
Well, you have to listen to your body.
The hangover, you know what I mean? The exercise hangover.
There's a few things with that actual point there. You have to listen to your body, okay? You can push yourself, but remember one thing, you will get DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. And that can be quite demoralizing sometimes, D-O-M, demoralizing, because that pain is a pain that's there. It's there the second day and also the third day, sometimes after that as well. So you have to be prepared. If you know a fitness expert or a fitness professional who knows about these things, it's good to speak to them, because some people think they're actually dying when they've done a weight training workout and their muscles are sore. Okay, so that also can be quite demoralizing mentally. But if you know that it's going to come, you can embrace it, because it means your body's getting stronger and your body's changing for the better. But I always say, take care, okay, do what you can and listen to your body. And don't push yourself too hard. Don't put yourself off doing fitness or strength training. Put yourself onto it by doing what you can and going back, relaxing, and come back again the next day to do some more, or the day after, or the day after that, whichever.
Well, listen, you're the best advert for this amazing fitness regime.
I really appreciate that.
And it's an amazing story. Well, I'm sure there'll be plenty of people hopping online to check out your website. It is called vibeconcepts.co.uk. My sincere thanks to Delvin Clark. And Delvin, do come back and see us and keep us fit throughout the new year.
I will come back, and I will want you to do some aerobics with me or some step if we can.
Oh dear. That means Mark Dolan in Lycra. What a horrifying thought, but we will do it. The commitment has been made. Thank you, Delvin, and safe journey back to the Midlands. I know you've got classes first thing in the morning.
Thank you very much.
A busy man indeed. There we are. Well, thank you so much to Delvin. Lots more to come. Next, we're going to do another Great British game show. That's right, it's called Growing Pains. Can you guess who the child star is? And in my news agenda with my amazing panel, we'll have a look at kitchen nightmares of a very specific type, and also other big stories from the papers. Don't forget, at 11 o'clock, we are premiering Weekend Headliners. That's right, I'm in the host's chair every Friday, Saturday and Sunday for a fun and entertaining look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages with two top comedians. So lots to get through. I'll see you after this.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview Channel 236.
On Sky, we're Channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Brilliant stuff. Lots more to get through in the last few minutes of this part of the programme. We're starting a brand new weekend edition of Headliners at 11. I'll be in the host's chair every Friday, Saturday and Sunday. But let's take a look at the news agenda now with our brilliant panel of Chris Wilde, political commentator Alice Grant and comedian Nick Dixon. But let's have a couple of front pages. Of course, I'll give you a comprehensive paper flick at the top of the hour. But where shall we start first? Let's have a look at the I newspaper, and here's what they're saying. NHS exodus, medics leave en masse after grim 2 years. And the Sun newspaper, Denise ditches phone sex fiancé. That's right, heartbroken telly star Denise Van Outen has ditched her fiancé after discovering he's been having phone relations and dates with other women. Perish the thoughts. Well, we'll give you many more of the front pages at 11, as I've said, but let's crack on now. And according to shocking new findings, air pollution likely contributed to the deaths of more than 1.8 million people across the globe in the year 2019 alone. It puts those COVID figures into perspective. 2 studies by scientists in the US, both published in the Lancet Planetary Health magazine, looked at the effects of nitrogen dioxide and fine particulate pollution. In 2019, nearly 2 million cases of asthma among children worldwide were attributed to NO2 pollution, as it's called, at levels exceeding the World Health Organization guidelines from 2005. Modelling also suggested there are currently 2.5 billion people living in areas with unhealthy levels of fine particulate matters in the air. Well, there you go. Chris, are you worried about the cleanliness of our air?
I am indeed. 240,000 children in London have got asthma. That's a lot. And I live in Enfield with the new cycle lanes. And, you know, you're supposed to drive people to get on the bikes, but it's not. It's just congestion of cars every morning. Yeah. Very concerned, of course. Who isn't? I mean...
Yeah, you've got to be, haven't you? I mean, Nick, the bottom line is that you can do everything you can to have good nutrition, and you can take Delvin's advice about fitness, but you've got no control over the air that you breathe.
Right, you've looked at me and you said, this guy cares about nutrition and fitness, and you're absolutely right, but...
I did, I mean, you're like a cliche.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, you're right.
Can I just say that Delvin looks rather sort of skinny next to you? You know what I mean?
I'm jacked.
You are jacked, to use that American word.
But on a serious note, air pollution, I'm against it, always have been. It's bad. I think controversial GB News take, but apparently it's very bad in some places in Southeast Asia I hear, but I probably won't travel again because I will refuse to take the 18th booster, so I don't see much travel in my future. Though apparently one of the worst places was where I used to live in Muswell Hill. That roundabout was really bad for air pollution. They say there's a rumour, isn't there, Mark? Do you remember this? That if you walk down Oxford Street, it's like smoking a cigarette and a half. Did you ever hear that?
Yes, I did hear about that, yeah.
Is that true?
Well, I mean, I think it doesn't take a genius to work out that the air is not clean. I mean, you can just smell it in our great city centres.
You can taste it.
I go around, you can almost taste it. I go around on a little 125 moped, and I sometimes have to actually hold my breath when I'm passing an HGV or a bus because there's a massive gust of horrible, dirty air coming my way.
Yes, yeah, no.
You try to sort of not breathe, don't you, as if that's possible. You sort of, not breathing.
Yeah.
Sorry, Carol.
We've sort of normalised it, haven't we? We've sort of normalised having bad air. And hey, listen, Alice, I'm not going to be proposing lockdowns for anything, but it's telling that I mean, in India, they are actually talking about lockdowns for air pollution because things are so bad in cities like Delhi. They're actually saying to people, look, today is not the day to be going out for exercise.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if lockdowns would solve the problem here, for sure. I mean, it's a difficult argument. I know in China it's a lot worse. I always just feel grateful that we're not, in Beijing.
I mean, would you be
London,
willing...
I think for London, considering it's a city of 9 million people and there's so much traffic all the time, I can breathe, so I'm thankful for that.
Well, yeah,
maybe
do you
I'm
see
just
it,
being too optimistic.
as a necessary consequence of a productive economy and also the ability to travel around, perhaps in your own vehicle? I mean, would you be willing to curtail certain luxuries for cleaner air?
I do not believe in sacrificing personal liberties or freedoms for safety. I think I had quite enough of that over the last 2 years. But
you reminded me of that old sign project when you. Sorry.
I think it's just a casualty of modern life, really.
Yeah.
So
I try to get back to Yorkshire at least once a month to breathe fresh air.
Yes,
We
should all go to the country.
Well, yeah, I mean, the problem with Muswell Hill, where you used to live, wasn't it the sort of toxic fumes from, like, croissants coming from the bakery?
I know what you mean. I'm like Chris.
People blowing the steam off their latte macchiato.
That can be an issue, Mark. It's a serious issue in North London. But I've thought about, like Chris, moving back to Cumbria. The only thing is there's nothing there. If they move GB News up to Cumbria, I would consider it.
Well, we could put a studio there.
I'm hoping we will. I mean, why not? We need more things in the north.
The majority of our viewers are outside London, and I say that with great pleasure and pride.
We don't have air pollution as much in Cumbria because you don't even have a bus. Buses are like every once an hour where I'm from, so it's less of a pollution problem, but there are other problems. Like there's no hospital anywhere near. But yeah, pollution's serious. But yeah, let's all move back up north.
Yeah,
it's a good part.
Parts of London have got smog, and Muswell Hill's got smug. Let's move on to our next story. I'm here all week, folks. Now, listen, let's talk about a very concerning story, and it features something that's rife in the GB News kitchen, let me tell you. The internet's been divided over a woman who installed a tiny hidden camera in her fridge after suspecting her flatmate of stealing her food. The 20-year-old British woman took to Reddit to explain she shares a house with 3 other women and wanted to find out who was responsible for her food and drink constantly going missing. Calling it unbelievably frustrating, she explained how she'd installed a fridge camera and caught the culprit red-handed. However, when she confronted the thief, she was shocked to be told she was in the wrong for invading her privacy. So what do we think? Have you been sort of subject, Chris, to kitchen crimes?
Yeah, I have actually. I'm going to hold my hands up. I used to live with someone back in the day, and I remember one night I got home and had too much to drink, and there was a bit of cheesecake there, and I took his cheesecake, and the next day we fell out. So yeah, I am guilty. I'm all for
cheesecake battles. Was cheesecake a hill to die on?
It sure was,
that household?
And it was worth every risk I took, and it destroyed my friendship.
Yeah, I mean, one problem I've got, Alice, is it's certainly back in the day in flat shares. It's when you've maybe had a couple of drinks, you come home from the pub, and you're on your own in a flat share kitchen, and you open the fridge, and there's like a sausage roll in there. It's not your sausage roll.
Temptation.
And you're thinking, it's 2 a.m, I'm starving, I don't want to go to the all-night garage. It might just miraculously disappear.
Actually, I once used someone's butt in the communal kitchen. I felt so guilty. I had to write a little post-it note with the humiliation on it, and I stuck it there.
Did you say butter?
Yes, yeah, a little bit of butter. honest.
That's not really a note-level incident.
I felt
I like
guilty.
It's my condiment of choice, I've got to say.
Yeah.
I would steal butter.
Yeah, or ice cream if it's in the fridge. I think you're going to steal it, aren't you? This story is a weird microcosm for a whole society because she surveilled the other person and caught them stealing, right? But there's a question, isn't it? It's like safety and certainty of surveillance versus the freedom for privacy. Like, who's actually in the wrong? They were stealing, which is bad, but she shouldn't have been surveilling them. You know what I mean?
I see how you use freedom of privacy. That's a good touch, though.
Yeah. Well, because that's what they were saying. They were saying, oh, you've invaded my privacy. And she's like, you've stolen my stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm against them both.
Well, Alice, there are members of the elite production team here at GB News and some of the on-air talent as well, who have been known to label their food in the fridge. And we've got one particular very talented entertainment journalist, and he writes in the fridge, you've got Josh's biscuits, okay? Wow. On a Post-it note. And here's the thing, right? I'm not sure you're supposed to keep biscuits in the fridge anyway. But it is that terror, and I understand it, that you know when there's just one last sausage that you've put in the fridge or that little bit of butter, and you, in the back of your mind, you know it's there, and then when you get to it and you open the fridge and it's gone. It's devastating.
I face that every day.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Where?
It's carnage in my household. If you hide, I have to hide my stash of food.
Do you get
because
food
otherwise,
anxiety? Food anxiety?
I do. I do.
People stealing butter all over the place.
I do. Sometimes I'm upstairs, I'm like,
so
oh no.
what kind of stuff goes missing?
Well, over Christmas, there was quite a few. Do you know the German Lebkuchen biscuits?
No.
So good.
Have they got like a layer of chocolate at the bottom?
Yes, yeah. They're
nice. They're sort of chewy and sweet and chocolatey. And they went missing, did they?
They did. My cats also steal my food, so actually
really? Your
I'm
cats
attacked on all sides, humans.
Your cats
all coming out. It's all coming out now. Here you go, your kitchen nightmares brought to vivid recollection by my panel. It was revealed this week that the classic BBC children's show Grange Hill will be returning after 40 years. The Grange Hill movie is going to be released later this year, and the film will reportedly feature old cast members. But they aren't the fresh-faced youngsters they once were, of course, and are going to play parents and even grandparents in the reboot. Take a look at Lee McDonald, who was the star of one of Grange Hill's most hard-hitting storylines when his character Zamo became addicted to heroin. That got us thinking about other child stars and who might be just as unrecognisable all grown up. So it's time now for another edition, as always at this point in the show, of The Great British Game Show. And tonight's Great British Game Show is called Growing Pains. Can you, at home, and my panel here in the studio, recognise these childhood celebrities now they are all grown up? Let's have a look at our first child. Who could this be? There we are. Now, I'll need a couple of clues from my team in my ear, if you wouldn't mind. Because I'm certainly struggling with that one.
It must be the kid from...
Honestly, I have no idea.
Are these all from Grange Hill, or are they just in general?
Let me give you a clue. It's originally it was a movie about a mouse.
Stuart Little.
Stuart Little, that's absolutely right. It is Jonathan Lipsinski from Stuart Little, who is all grown up. OK, let's take a look at our next child star, fully grown. Who could that be?
Oh, it's E.T.
Well done, that's exactly right. It's Elliot from E.T.
Not actually E.T., because that's the alien.
No, that's right.
Probably looks the same.
He's aged very badly. E.T.'s had a lot of cosmetic surgery. Brilliant stuff. That's Harry Thomas, starring, of course, in that iconic film. OK, next up, let's have a look at another child star. Right, now, who could that be? A wonderful talent from the North East. The iconic kids' TV drama.
Biker Grove.
Biker Grove is the right answer. Jill Halfpenny played Nicola. And last but not least, let's have a look at who this could be. There you go. He looks intergalactic, that guy.
Is it Jack O'Connell?
It's not. No. Begins with J, though. It's George Lucas's imaginary character of Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah. I don't count those
Jake
films.
Lloyd. My thanks to my amazing panel. Headliners, presented by yours truly, is next. See you in 2.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello, it's looking rather changeable across the UK through this weekend with some heavy rain and some strong winds for many parts on Saturday. Sunshine and showers though by Sunday, and temperatures will be a little bit higher than they have been of late. If we look at the pressure pattern then, you can see the reason why. This frontal system will continue to spread in from the west over the next 24 hours, bringing that heavy rain and strong winds. But ahead of it, some quite